Not bad for a guy with one eye.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the PDL Season 1 pre-season show. I am your boy, Matty B, and I'm joined today by none other than 20k Blue, Garf, and Spud the Dud.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
Howdy. Look, we're going to get into the action this evening. We're going to talk about all things draft, team rankings, and expectations for the league, I guess. But before we get into any of it, we do have two of the league's founders, 20k Blue and Spud, in here. Boys, do you want to tell me a bit about the league, the rules, and why we're together?
Yeah, so a lot of us were, a lot of the members here are
Not bad
part of,
for a guy with one
previously
eye.
part of a league called the FMPL, but it kind of fell apart, and 20k and I, and Nito as well, who's not here at the moment, but we decided that we wanted to make another league for Sword Shield because we were pretty pumped to do some draft stuff for it. So yeah, that's about it. Did I miss anything there, 20k?
No.
Okay, so yeah, go for it.
Behind it. I just kind of sat back and let him do the work.
So we decided we wanted to do an open draft. So it's national decks. So we have all the mons available, not just the mons available in Sword Shield. And what we decided to do was we allowed megas. So every team is required to have a mega, but there's only you can only have a maximum of one. You can't have more than one. And then you need to have one tier 1 mon, one tier 2, two tier 3s, a tier 4, a tier 5, and you didn't need any tier 6s. And we also decided we weren't going to have Z moves, but we did allow Dynamaxing, but only for tier 5 and tier 6 mons, kind of as a way of, we could still use the new mechanic, but it's only going to be used to make those lesser mons more viable rather than just have busted top tier mons, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then all the different tiers had different point values after that, so with your mega and 4 other mons you get to draft from any tier, you had 400 points to use as you please, and you did get 20 points back from choosing a tier 6 over a tier 5.
Excellent. I think you pretty much covered it.
I don't think I missed anything. Fill it in if I missed anything there, but yeah, I think I got it all.
All right, epic. Well, I guess then, better time than any now, after going over the draft rules, is to go into the picks and just sort of see how everything played out. Garf, you were talking before we went live about some of the threats that were picked up instantly.
Yeah, as I was referring to just now, in round 1, many tier 1s were picked, such as Dracovish, Dragapult, and Hydreigon, etc. And these, the first two have prominent roles in the OU tier due to having super good attacking stats and speed tiers. And another notable fact was that Toxapex was chosen, and Toxapex is annoying.
Pex is annoying, I agree with that, but
Fair enough. Maka, any thoughts? At least on round 1?
It went as much as you'd expect. Dracovish, Dragapult, the new mons, they're shiny. They're gonna get picked.
Dom G as well.
Dom G as well, yeah. That thing's been hit
yeah.
like a truck, so no shock it's picked.
Yeah, I think it was all tier 1s picked in round 1, which was a little surprising for me that no one went for a mega or a value pick they thought was in, say, tier 2.
Well, I was close enough. I picked a mega as part of my first 2.
Oh yeah, of course. But when you look at it overall, no one decided that they thought anything in tier 2 was quite which I guess is also, yeah, but also people were, I think, a little bit shiny toy stuff as well. Stuff like all the new mons in those tiers. Mind you, they're all pretty good, but they all got picked up basically. So
Dracozolt, I think, is a good example of that.
Yeah.
I
don't
think
know if
I
it's-
think Zolt's a good mon, but I think there was probably some better stuff left on the board.
I don't
potentially.
think it's better than all the stuff that was still there on the board.
Oh yeah, Spud, your
Actually.
mic keeps chopping for some reason, dude. By the
Oh,
way.
does it? I'll
Yeah, it's
see
like
what I can do
it's
about
almost
that.
like a flapping sound. But yeah, going on like under round one as well. I think something that I found quite interesting was the fact that Lando T spent such a long time before eventually getting picked by Porygon. So honestly, like if I'm him, third like was at 12th pick in round one, like that's pretty lucky to
Like,
get.
you don't expect Lando T to go that far.
Yeah, literally. I mean, like my thing was in the first round, I had 3 choices for my being the number 1 pick. Dracovish. I wanted to also look at Komodo, or Lando T. But then of course I obviously went with Dracovish. In my opinion, the most dangerous mon going around at the moment. You could argue Dam G as well.
I think those would be the 2 you would think about.
Those are the 2 hardest hitters.
Yeah. And then what you boys were just saying before as well. The first round, not a lot of mega picks, like very much just tier 1 like zoom ins from everyone. But then round 2, that is like the round of the mega Pokemon. You have to feel like.
100%. I think it's what is it like half the mons were megas or something like that. Looks like it. I didn't actually count them, but
7.
7 of the 6.
7, 16, so almost half. Yeah. Yeah, and like the others are all like second tier 1s or tier 2s. I think. Basically, I picked a tier 3. I picked Primarina, but I think all the other ones were tier 2s and megas and tier 1.
Yeah, the first 3 rounds especially was very top heavy. Everyone was trying to get in and get those really powerful mobs, and then they could fill out the rest of their team later.
Looking at like the type of picks we see as well, I wanted to just sort of get a bit of insight, especially from the man Garf while we've got him here. What made you go Mega Aggron in the second round? Because I feel like that's a mon that wouldn't have been in crazy high demand. So what was your thought process in picking him as your second pick?
Or like a huge weakness to both.
Well, you're lagging a bit, brother. Wait up.
Now a little bit. We'll see if we can.
Okay, I'm gonna repeat. Okay, Komo has a huge weakness to fairy types and psychic types, and Aggron like can eat those hits. So, and besides, Aggron can also set up Stealth Rock. So I think it would be a good pivot between Aggron and Komo.
I
Yeah.
see that. I also think Aggron's a pretty good value mega when you look at it with the tiers. I think it was a tier 3 mega, so it got you
Nothing.
didn't cost you anything rather than the tier 1s costing you 40 points. So I feel like it was pretty good value in there. Definitely. And I feel like Aggron slept on a little bit because it does have 145 attack, so you don't have. I think that's right. So you don't have to run bulk on your Aggron, if you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
you can run scary offensive sets. It does get stuff like rock polish and stuff too.
yeah, and it has filter, which is super good. It like makes it even fatter than it is.
It's very fat. No question about that.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I think like my picks were probably like the most straightforward, like in like the early stages. Like my first.
You could definitely see where you were going with your early picks.
Yeah. Like I felt like I had to get Therathorn wherever I could, like if it was available, because I feel like that's probably one of the most viable switch-ins to Dracovish. Probably outside of maybe Bulu, but I don't think Bulu has the same type of natural bulk to take a
Oh, the
Fish's
other
Ram.
thing I would say is something like I would say the other thing is something like Toad or something. Water absorb mons are
Yeah,
naturally
yeah.
really good switch-ins too, but outside of those, I think you're right with Ferrothorn.
Yeah.
And I do like the Rotom Heat pick you took there too, because getting a nice kind of pivot into Vish is really solid as well. And then you've also got your Water, Fire, Grass in your first 3 picks.
Yeah. Well, Rotom H also gives you a lot of diversity. Like you could the spec,
It's very versatile.
Specs, Staff, Chesto, Resto, bulky defense. You know, like there's a lot I can do with it. And as you said there,
100%.
it's a great pivot. And I mean, I look at the second round as well. I also really like Running Wood's Zeroa pick. I think that one's a
that's
little bit
solid
cheeky.
pick. Yeah, it's a pretty good value in tier 2. It's so fast. And you look at his first 2 picks, Taunty and Zeroa, like that's some 2 really fast pivoting mons, and it just sets up your speed tiers really nicely straight away. Like a mon in the 140s and the mon in the 120s with your first 2 picks. Yeah, I think that sets it up pretty nicely in that regard.
And I guess as we shift to like the next like 4 rounds, it's a mixture of like tech picks and quality mons that are still there. Like, I mean, like if you look at like Raven gets Hooper Unbound in a 3rd round draft pick, like probably one of the most dangerous Pokemon to come out of Gen 7.
But
It-
when you look at
Gen 6.
wall breaking power,
6? Yeah, 6. Thank you.
wall breaking power, it hits both sides. It gets a fair amount of like coverage and whatnot. It's super scary. And you also look at some of the other stuff that went. There's a few people that reached up a little bit for things, I guess, value picks in those tiers. I think Desboy took Moltres in round 4, which is a tier 4 mon, which he sniped me on that one. I think I was going to take that in, round as well, because I think now that boots are available, Moltres becomes significantly better.
You can actually reliably switch in
Yeah.
on default stuff.
Yeah, it becomes significantly better. That 4x Rock Wing, this has crippled it previously. Now it can actually run a more bulky set, can be a pivot with U-turn, but also it's still really scary offensively with, you know, flying coverage is pretty scary.
Any thoughts on rounds 3 to 6, Garf? Anything that really caught your eye?
Not really, but it's just I think like round 3 to 6 was more on like bulkier mons because round 1 and 2 were more expensive.
That's
You
true.
can-
I think there is a lot of bulk.
Yeah, you can see like Tangrowth from Kazik round 3. Kazik also took Poltergeist, Copper-Raja, Incineroar by me, and Blissey by Potatoes, which is also annoying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Blissey. Yeah, I think there were a few mons that kind of stand out to me, particularly in round 5. Cinder Scorch and Lapras both went, which I think they were taken as D-Max captains later too. So I think that was with the being able to run their D-Max and G-Max forms in mind.
I feel like that
So
was
we'll see if that pays off.
that was a
We'll see if
symptom
that pays off.
of they are shiny and they have a G-Max form, and I want to play with that.
But potentially, I mean, it does give you a bit of diversity because you can run either form, but I do feel like most of the time the D-Max forms are just superior to the G-Max ones for most mons.
Yeah, I
Center
agree.
Scorch, for example, setting up Sun is almost always, unless in specific situations, which you could have in draft, but that you'd want to fire spin trap them, I feel like almost all the time, Sun's going to be better, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess moving down to the other rounds then, you can probably do the rest in one go, right?
Yeah, definitely. The last 5, like this is it's filling rosters at this point.
There are a few ones that really slipped though. One in round 6 I forgot to mention. Sylveon in round 6 is a steal. The fact that got that far. And things like there are a few tier 1s that people didn't necessarily have the points for, so they went in these later rounds that slipped through, like Clefable in round 7.
Barraskewda round 9.
Crook as a tier 3 in round 7. Yeah, there's a few mons that really slipped through. Also, I got Mega Beedrill in the last round, but I think that's more of a symptom of all the Megas. Everyone else had drafted their Mega by round 8, so I could just wait and draft mine in the last round.
Yeah,
Because everyone else went early on. There was a lot of early picks on the Megas. There were only 2 Megas picked in these last 5 rounds. So, actually 3. Sorry, I missed Pidgeot there, but
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's pretty accurate to say that most of this is everyone's drafted their core mons, and this is just kind of filling out the roster, trying to cover their weaknesses a little bit. I think.
You're chopping again, brother.
Oh, sorry.
Alright.
Let's see what I can do.
I also think that Yuxi in round 7 is like a steal because it gets Stealth Rock.
Definitely.
And like from round 7 to 11, we see that Nito gets like very good synergy mons. Like first he has Coco Lucha, and then next he has Toko and Pokemon that complement the sun, such as Houndoom Mega to get solar power, and Chlorophyll Venusaur.
Yeah, definitely. You could see Nito kind of move into that. Am I chopping it? I think I can hear
Yeah,
it. Chopping into that sun. Also, I'll fix the mic.
Oh no, wait.
But I was very happy to get Yuxi in round 7 too.
It's Garf actually. Garf, you're flicking your mic or something.
Oh, it's raining very.
Yeah, that's alright.
Was anyone else got anything notable from these picks before we move on to looking at the teams in general? I guess.
Not really. Just maybe there's a couple of other like niche mons in there, like Durant round 8. I think Durant's got like a huge buff this gen with first impression now.
And there's a big buff. And I feel like some people overlook the buffs on occasion of these mons. It can be
Definitely.
easy to forget them. Like Mega
Oh.
Blastoise, even huge buffs got picked up in round 5. Like with Shell Smash, that thing is hugely scary now.
It's even just with like the rapid spin change as well. Like it makes it like a
Yeah,
great,
even just that is, yeah, you're not wrong.
great clearance. It's got a great move pool. Even you run it into the Mega as well with a fantastic ability, like with Mega Launcher.
Yeah, and a fantastic move pool to abuse that ability as well.
Yeah, Mega Launcher being able to boost its speed is very scary to me.
Mega
Mhm.
Launcher with rapid spin speeding, speed boosting, sorry, is huge.
I think that covers the draft. I think that's pretty much everything that you really want to cover. Let's move into the teams now. I guess. Do you want to just go through each one like one by one?
We can do that. We just go through them in the order they are on here, which is, I think, the order that the picks were. So
Yeah, this is the big one.
yeah.
Okay, so well, I guess we'll start off with the Perth Score Bunnies, coached by 20k Blue.
Yep.
So, you know, we've got the Heatran, Slowbro, Greninja, Mineshower, Miltank, Electabuzz, Mega Altaria, Tapu Bulu, Skarmory, Meloetta, and Toucannon as the D-Max captain. Now, I'm just going to go straight to Garf here. Garf, what do you see when you look at the 20k Blue lineup? What are your instant thoughts?
I see a very like bulky offensive team. Slowbro can set up Calm Mind, Slack Off, and just be a nuisance in general. Skarmory and Miltank will help to set up hazards and just wear opponents out. And Altaria can also set up like Dragon Dance. It can also heal Bell and Defog. So I think it's a very well-rounded team. Yeah.
Maka, did you want to give us your thoughts going through the draft and like why you picked certain mons, or without revealing too much? Obviously, we are still in preseason.
Well, ask anyone who's ever played against me, and I play bulky and slow and annoying. So if
We
you look
drafted that.
so I drafted bulky and slow and annoying. Because I had the round pick, I had arguably the best spot in the draft, so I can pick mons that have good synergy together. So first of all, Heatran, Altaria just work really well together, cover each other's weaknesses.
And
Then
I have a big question.
yes,
Why Miltank?
Miltank's a steal in tier 4, dude.
I gotta agree with that to a degree. I think Miltank's pretty good in tier 4. Gets two
Spud
well.
used it in a previous season and showed me the way. He's
I-
very bulky and fast.
Yeah, it has. I mean, you could say this has 3 good abilities, but Scrappy really on Miltank isn't particularly good. Although I did use it once, I think, when I used it previously. But Miltank's just a really solid mon. Gets rocks, pretty reliable recovery. But overall, I'm quite a fan of this team. I wouldn't draft it. It's slow for me, but I do feel like it's quite well-rounded. It has the wall. Even though it's quite a bulky team, it has the wall breaking potential with stuff like Bulu and Mienshao, even like Spectran. It's got the versatility of Altaria. I feel like it's the only issue I have. One of the only issues I have with the team is I feel like its scary offensive mon besides Altaria are quite one-dimensional to a degree. Heatran, if Heatran's coming offensively, you know what it's doing. Ninja does the same thing because this is
Torrent Ninja.
torrent only. Yeah, Mienshao, you know what it's doing. Bulu, you definitely know what Bulu's doing. I mean, you can bring Calm Mind, but it's pretty niche. So that would be the only thing with this team. I feel like outside of Altaria, there's not a huge amount of versatility on the offensive side, but a lot of the bulkier mons can be run offensively, so I think that does help to a degree. And I mean, I do like this team. I had it number 2 on my power ranking, so that I just whipped together. So
Where'd you have it? Sorry.
number 2.
Number 2. So we've got the
Yeah.
Perth Score Bunnies, power rank by Spud into 2nd, which is pretty decent. I would have to agree with you as well. I think this is a dangerous team overall. Like a really good bulky core, as Garf said. There's great, I guess, synergy in terms of turning. You've got Electabuzz, Ninja. You've got your Mineshower as well with a very fast pivot. There's just a lot of options he's got for himself there. We're going to jump into yourself now, Spud. So again, I am just going to ask Garf to lead us here on what his instant thoughts are when we look at the Sydney Swanners.
Wait, so now are we rating Nito's team?
Sorry?
Now are we rating Nito's team?
No, we're doing Spud. I'm just doing it from the bottom of the spreadsheet. Yeah. It's not in draft order, so I'm just going along that.
Okay, so like looking at Spud's team, his team is also like super bulky. Okay, he's got Arcanine, Yuxi, Mudsdale. I mean Spudsdale. Spudsdale can set up rocks. Yuxi too. I'll say this team like offers a lot of wall breaking potential. Hydreigon is a very heavy hitter, especially with Dragon Dance. Magnezone can run specs. Primarina too. And I'd say his most unique thing about his team is Batik, which is also a Z captain. Batik can set up both weathers, hail and rain, so he gets either Swift Swim or Slash Rush, and meaning that Batik outspeeds everything and it hits super hard. Yeah.
It was a really good pickup too as well, I think, with the bear technician. You touching on the Swift Swim thing as well, like Slash Rush is easy to talk about, but then the fact that it has that potential to set the rain up. Maka, 20k blue, what are your thoughts when you look at the lineup?
This is a very Spud team. It's very scary. Hydreigon and Magnezone and Beedrill are very scary mons. He does have the Yuxi and the Arcanine as sort of anchors for him to pivot around, but there's just so many things here that you have to check, and with good play, it's speaking as a bulky from my bulky team, this is going to be really hard to defend against.
I would have to agree with you as well, and I think this is like a prime example of making do with a lot of, like, I guess you wouldn't say like bad mons, but like less favorable ones in terms of, like, you know, like Hydreigon being like Hydreigon, Magnezone being like the two like mons that stand out to me, as well as Mega Beedrill, but the rest of them, they sort of feel a bit more niche, you know, Primarina, Mudsdale, Whimsicott. Like, you can tell, like, having known Spud for so long, like the type of team he would play with, but like you look at it, it's like making a lot work from nothing.
It's kind of how I felt when I was drafting it. I put in a lot of effort to make sure I drafted a lot of mons that could pivot around, so I could use the threats I did draft, like Hydreigon, Magnezone, Whimsicott, Beedrill, Yuxi, Swoobat, all pivot. So that was one thing I definitely thought of. Another thing with Beartic is it gets a lot of good fighting moves too, like Superpower and stuff, so it can boost its attack in D-Max form as well. And one thing I would like to point out with Swoobat now is that it got Nasty Pot in this generation. So simple Nasty Pot Swoobat is actually pretty scary.
That is quite scary, yeah.
Alright, and so you are the man with the power rankings. Where did you sit yourself out of the 16 players?
Sitting yourself is kind of difficult, and so I don't know whether I did that accurately or not, because you kind of feel different about your own team. But
of course.
I had myself at 4, but I feel like I'm not. That's the one I'm least confident about, 100%, because it's myself.
It's fair enough. I mean, like, you're always a bit more biased towards yourself, whether you think
or
you're
harsh
better.
on yourself,
Yeah, exactly.
Depending either way, yeah, it's hard to be objective
neutral,
about your own team. Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, that's fine. So we've got 20k blue, second rated, Spud at 4. We'll move on to Nito now. The man who was meant to be here, but obviously isn't, the coach of the Liverpool Tentacruels. Again, Garf, I want you to be the man just to walk us through the main lineup here.
Alright, so previously I already mentioned the Coco Lucha core.
Yeah.
And Sun, and he has like a very menacing Sun team, especially with Toko with Drought, Houndoom, Solar Power, and Venusaur's Chlorophyll. I think Articuno is quite a niche pick, because previously 4 times weakness to rock, but now with heavy duty boots, it's pretty bulky. So without having rocks to chip away, I think it's gonna do quite well in this league. And he's also got Hexorus, which Mold Breaker is pretty terrifying. And he's also got Mew. Mew in this generation is very versatile.
100%.
Yeah. And Golub as his Dynamax Captain is also quite cool because Golub has like 124 base attack and gets fighting type moves, brick break, focus punch, etc. Yeah, and it also gets fly. So
I know Nito definitely knew it got fly. That was one of the things when he picked it. He was like, "Oh, I know it gets fly. I can get that speed." Um, I do actually quite like this team. It's very scary offensively. It has some bulk, but I feel like that's probably where the team, its weakness, I guess. It's gonna have to out offense you, I think, most of the time. Has things like Persian as a pivot. Mew can be a bulky pivot. I think Mew's gonna be forced into a pretty bulky role in this team. And Polyon's pretty bulky, so is Torkoal, but it's quite an offensive team, which I think its offense is very good and very scary. But it's a very offensive team with a pretty notable ground weakness.
Mm.
So if they have a if they have a scary offensive ground type, they can maybe chuck a choice scarf on it, or if a ground type that's got set up, it looks pretty scary to me. Rock polish ground types maybe. But yeah, I definitely think it's a pretty scary team to face. No question about that.
Maka, thoughts?
I'll say it again. I don't know how I'm gonna prepare for this team defensively, because I sure as hell can't out offense this team, and having Coco Lucha and having the scary Suncore of Handu Mega and Venusaur, there's a lot of things on this team you have to prepare for, and you only get 6 mons.
That's actually something that I wanted to bring up on this team. Just really quick, sorry to cut you off there,
Yeah,
but
go
like
for it.
like having Coco to get the electric terrain up, having Horlucha, even having Golett, because Golett gets Thunder Punch, right? So you've got multiple options on getting like an unburdened Horlucha set up, even without
True.
like demaxing. Like you can like an SD up, unburdened with a +1 defense. Like that's very hard to break off the get go. You can run that off the back of a great Sun Core, and like you've got a fantastic like balanced offense team with the natural bulk that you get out of them on like Golurk and Venusaur. You can have like your Empoleon play that support role as another rock setter, and there's even some cool offensive stuff you can do with the Penguins. So rock and roll.
100%.
Where'd you rate it, brother?
I had this one at 7.
7. Alright.
Yes, 7.
That's all right. We'll I guess we'll balance it out a lot more as well as we go through it and sort of see where
Obviously, this is just
Other
my
people see
opinion.
it.
I did
Of
these
course.
myself, so yeah. This
Was
is
that
no one
mainly
else.
because it's fragile, or?
I was largely because it's fragile. Also, I think the teams above it. I don't think this team is bad. The teams above it are very good too. But I feel like against a bulky team, it'll be really good. Against another against an offense team that can pivot around a bit better, potentially. Although this team does pivot pretty well, but against another offense team that maybe has a decent matchup, I think its ground weakness is one of the things that stands out to me that's pretty scary.
Mm.
It can't switch into ground types. Like, okay, Horlucha can, but Horlucha's not really bulky, and ground types, Horlucha's not necessarily going to be able to do much back to them.
Yeah,
That was my
fair
main
enough.
thing with this team.
All right. Well, I guess with that one, we'll jump over towards Lagoon, coach of the Red Bluff Rabombi. That's an interesting name.
Yeah.
Straight off the bat, like I look at this lineup, like I see new toys. I see lots of new toys here.
It's almost exclusively new toys, isn't it? There's a lot of new toys on this squad. And I feel like that probably... I definitely think that didn't help the squad. I feel like it struggles with certain... I don't know, balance around certain types and actually being able to switch into them. Like, G is obviously really scary offensively, and Corsola is really bulky, no question about that, but like, I don't know, his fairy switch in is Stunfisk G and that's it. I feel like if there's offensive fairy types, and I think it was the same with flying types if I'm not mistaken, he's only Boltons and Stunfisk G, so I feel like against certain mons, it's going to have really poor matchups. But I do think G with Mega Pidgeot is pretty scary with Pidgeot being able to clean up, and same thing with Zygarde 10. I also don't mind Ninetales A, but I'm not sure I would have drafted the 2 offensive ice types on the same team.
Yeah.
Ice type can be a little vulnerable at times, but
Fair enough. Garf, your thoughts on the lineup?
I think that like he doesn't have solid hazard removal. His
Mm.
only form of setting hazards is chestnut with spikes. But other than that, I think his team offensively is like very scary, and Inteleon can set up dual screens and pivot into Damanitan and just let Damanitan like sweep. Um, and he's also got very good speed tiers in Mega Pidgeot and Zygarde. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one. I think you're exactly right too with the Inteleon thing. Inteleon, I think, plays a sort of similar role to like Torrent Greninja in being like a fast support mon. Like I look at Torrent Greninja, I think I could be Sash Spike's lead with like U-turn, Hydro Pump. If I can get my spike up, I can take a hit. I can hit like hard with a Torrent Hydro Pump and do like something. I can do something similar with Inteleon, who also gets Sucker Punch, it gets U-turn, Liquidation. Even it just has an awful attack stat, which doesn't help it. Maka, what do you look at when you see this lineup? What catches your eye?
A lot of things on this team will hit hard. I'm not sure how the team will go when it doesn't kill the thing it's hitting, but there's definitely some threats there. I'm just not sure how it works together cohesively defensively. There doesn't really seem to be cause.
Yeah.
Like there's no fire type for the Firewater Grass. The Dragon Steel Fairy, the steel is Stunfisk, and the fairy is Alcreamy. So I wouldn't like this defensively, but I mean it's got Dumb G and Inteleon and Mega Pidgeot, and don't sleep on Phalanx either. So you definitely have to be careful with the team.
And where was this one placed on the Spud?
I had this one pretty low. I had 14 for this one.
Fair enough. I mean, he's in the chat, so he's got plenty to prove now.
I'm sure Lagoon and I are buddies, so I'm sure he'll try and prove me wrong on that. And I want to be clear as well. I don't think any of the teams that were drafted were bad. It's just whether or not they're better than the other teams. I think all these teams are pretty solid.
It's alright. Not last smiley face. You're fine. All right. Well, let's move on then to the Milwaukee Saucebucks from Runningwood. This team scares me. Like this is one I look at like it's genuinely like it's full of like beasts.
Really scares me as well. I agree with you on that. I feel like first of all, Mako will be happy because I feel like this team has pretty solid bulk.
Oh yes.
But also, I feel like its offense. It's got great offensive pivots with Taunty and Zero Aura, and of course Taunty can be a bulky pivot as well with stuff like AV and whatnot. It's got another pivot, Eldegoss, because of regen. It's a great pivot. The only thing I get with this team is I really like the team. It's just how much wall breaking potential it's going to have. I think Frostmoth setting up helps with wall breaking potential, and Taunty and Zero Aura, if you with choice items or bulking up on Zero Aura can do it, and Delphox with a choice item maybe. But I feel like maybe it doesn't necessarily hit super hard. SD Samurai, but there's nothing here that just screams to me, hard hitting mon to break walls. I'd say other than that, I think the team is really solid, but that would be the biggest thing. I mean, you can break walls with stuff like Crest Carmine in front of them and stuff if you sub Carmine and things like that. But yeah, nothing screams wall breaker to me, which is my biggest.
And yourself, Garf, yeah.
I like his team relies on a lot of setup to do consistent damage, and the lack of hazard removers will like increase reliance on heavy duty boots. And like let's say you swap a Frostmoth in on a knockoff, it's gonna take massive damage, and if you swap out, it's probably gonna die to Stealth Rocks the next turn. But other than that, Taunty and Zero Aura, they pivot with each other pretty well. Yeah.
I will say on the hazard removers, I think Taunty is a really good defogger, and Galarian Weezing actually does get defog as well. So I don't think it's too big of an issue, the hazard removal. I think there is some there, so it can maybe get away with it, but yeah, you have to be a little careful with that for sure.
Maka? You already.
I think that
Yeah.
I think the team's really good. Obviously the lack of hazard removal does hurt a bit. Like obviously Taunty is a great hazard remover, but you don't want to be forcing your Taunty into being a defog bot. The team doesn't have a lot of hard hitters, but that's not what the team is trying to do. I feel like the team is trying to bounce around, get chip damage with Taunty, Zerora, that sort of stuff, and then pivot into walls that will take the hit. I'm very interested to see how Weezing and Steelix will combo together. And I feel like just it'll bounce around, wear down the enemy team, and then something like Delphox or Frostmoth can come in, maybe hit a boost, and then just clean up from there.
Thank you for the bits, bro. Appreciate
I
that.
think Running Wood may be trying to like let's say set up Trick Room with Cresselia
Also,
and just let Snorlax.
Shout out to Alex and
clean up.
Snizzy for the
It's
Because
definitely an option too.
subs, the resubs. Appreciate it, guys.
And Mega Steelix also hits super hard under Trick Room.
Does, yeah. And I also feel like Snorlax is also an option to clean up the late game as well, of course. Snorlax, talking about you know, your bulky mons that can sweep up teams. Snorlax and Cresselia, you have to prep for both of those, running Curse and Carmine respectively, because if you don't prep for those, you can be in deep trouble when it comes to those mons.
Yeah, I rate. Where does the Milwaukee Source Bucks come up under the power rankings?
I really like this team. I had it at 5. I'm a
5?
big fan of this team.
Yeah. Alright, I respect that. I sort of feel the same sort of concerns though, where it's like, it doesn't really do much in terms of like wall breaking. It's definitely a lot of chip. I mean, you've got a couple of mons that you've got Flapple as your D-Max captain, Delphox to do like your late game busting after you get that initial chip. It's just, it's gonna be frustrating in the early mid game, especially against like hyper offense teams that are just gonna like hit you harder than you're gonna be able to chip for a long time.
I do feel that, and that's definitely the team's biggest problem. There's no question about that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, hyper offense is the problem. I rate the strategy because it's kind of what my strategy is, except it's using fast mons to pivot around instead of just putting something fat in the way.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I think it's very viable and it will do well, just especially against teams that don't recover a lot or are kind of weak to hazards.
Alright. We'll move on to Jun then, who doesn't have a team name yet, or at least the doc hasn't been updated to say he has a team name.
I don't think he's given me one. I think unless I've forgotten, I apologize, John, if you have.
Yeah. We're gonna try and speed through a bit of these because we are taking a very long time. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll try and be a bit faster. Okay, so I'll start us off. I like parts of this team. I feel like there's some pretty scary offensive mons. Lopunny, Blacephalon, Azumarill, Toxtricity, Copperajah can hit pretty hard. But I feel that like almost every mon on this team feels pretty one-dimensional to me. I know what Azumarill, like, okay, Azumarill could bring. I mean, you could bring Whirlpool, but like it's pretty niche. Other than that, you know, it's gonna be like Bandit AV or Belly Drum, and it's doing very similar things. Toxtricity is very one-dimensional to me. Mega Lopunny is very good, and so is Blacephalon, but they're very I don't feel like it's got a lot of versatility in the mons. There's very little bulk on the team. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on Copperajah and Cursola to do that, and they're not the best bulky mons of all time. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on Copperajah to switch into things like flying hits and fairy moves. And I don't see the Orbeetle D-Max. I don't know. I don't feel like it's. I'm not its biggest fan, but hopefully it does things, but I don't quite see it.
Garf?
I don't really have anything else to say because like you say, Steam is just one-dimensional, but one thing to look out for is Liepard. Like I've played against Liepards before, and like their moveset is very good. It gets U-turn, Thunder Wave, Copycat. Yeah, and with Prankster boost and with the Prankster priority, it's gonna be quite good. Yeah.
That's fair enough. Any final thoughts, Maka?
Just what Spud said, really. It's going to be hard to check all those mons hitting you, but if you can check them, you've got the game.
Yeah, I feel like whoever's drafted Dragapult is a great matchup against this team. It's going to be very difficult when you pivot into a mon like that. Like, honestly, I even feel like Dracovish has a field day here. Like, if I pivot correctly, like a lot of momentum will be taken because it's hard for him to switch into a lot of these hard-hitting mons that are in this gen. Even Darmanitan, it's just not going to be a fun time overall. What was your rating for this one, Spuds?
This one 15.
15? 15. So all right. So not the best, but not the worst. But I guess that's
Not
more so
quite the
because
worst.
of its versatility. Like, there's strong mons. Don't get me wrong. Azumarill, Toxicity, Low Punny.
Oh, there's some good
Cephalon.
ones on there, but I feel like it's not necessarily a difficult team to prepare for because you can kind of know roughly what these mons are going to be doing.
Yeah, in a draft
So it's
format,
prep much easier. Definitely in the draft format. On the
Yeah.
ladder, it's a different story, but in draft format,
yeah. All right. On to the man, the myth, the legend, the coach of Western Sydney Whalelords, Matty B. Let's talk about my team, boys.
I like your team, Matty P. I do. Dracovish is obviously like ridiculously scary. I don't think that needs to be explained too much. I think Ditto is really solid to stop you getting swept. I feel like there's still some solid bulk on this team with Ferrothorn. And then you've also got things like Rotom Heat and Mandibuzz, which are not only bulky but provide really strong pivots to get in things like Dracovish and Mega Alakazam, Lucario and whatnot. Galvantula gives you a webs option, which is really scary with Dracovish. And Klefki provides some nice pranks to support. So does Murkrow. I rate the team. I think it's pretty good.
Garf?
Okay. One notable thing is the lack of a solid fire switch in. Rotom Heat can switch in, but of course it doesn't have reliable recovery and will get chipped. And Dracovish should be preserved as much as possible to ensure it cleans up or wall breaks. And getting Ditto was like very good for his team to stop sweeps. He's the team is very bulky and yeah, I like it.
Maka?
Well, yeah, it's obvious you've picked Dracovish and then tried to make Dracovish work.
Yeah.
Ferrothorn's the great pick because the best check to Dracovish is either Ferrothorn itself or a water type with water absorb, and Ferrothorn checks both those really nicely. Ferrothorn just comes in. It's a Ferrothorn. What can you say about it? You're pretty HO, so Ditto's really good just as a backup. I really rate the Kecleon D-Max. I can't wait to see what it does. And just rounding it out with Klefki and Murkrow is really good. Just support to make sure Dracovish and Zam Mega can do their thing.
Yeah. In the last two mons, backstory, I chose those drunk on call with Maka because
that was a good chat.
Because I couldn't do the math. I couldn't figure out how much I had left in my pool, so I ended up picking up Klefki because I wanted a good fairy type and a steel type that I could sort of play around with. It gave me good utility. And then I saw Murkrow, which cost me nothing. Priority Defog's nice. It's got Taunt, Thunder Wave. I'm pretty sure it gets U-turn as well. Like, it's a really good.
It does, yeah.
It's a really good fast Eviolite pivot with Prankster. Like, that's crazy good versatility for such like a low cost mon. Mega Alakazam. We all know what that can do. And of course the fish, which obviously like my first 5 mons, pretty much it's built around the fish. But I can also change it up, with like Galvantula, Lucario in the back. I feel like I have a lot of options, and that was probably the point. And it sort of suits my playstyle as well, which is a lot more aggressive than most players.
Definitely.
Where was I rated?
This team number 1, Matty B. So
Yeah.
you'll like that.
Yeah.
I just think the fish is too scary, and I think Zam to clean up after the fish breaks is just really threatening. It's really hard to play against.
Epic. All right, let's move on to Porygon now. The Lincoln Linones. This team's a really good team as well. Like, this one caught my eye instantly after we saw the drafts.
Scary.
Garf, do you want to walk us through why we would think it's scary?
Lando T.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that answer.
He's got a very strong Volt Turn combo between Lando and Rotom. His rose rate is quite niche. Can set up toxic spikes and has a decent special attack and speed tier. And Needle Queen, I think it does well. He also has Hoopa with and Hoopa, it hits kind of hard, but it's super weak to common, dark and ghost types. And Blastoise Mega is super good. Like with Mega Launcher, it can hit Aura Sphere, Water Pulse, and Dark Pulse, stuff like that. And I also like the Infernape because Infernape is super versatile. You could run Band, Specs, even Scarf, Sash, Stealth Rock, and it's also got Salamence. Um and I like Salamence because it's, like I said, versatile. Very good coverage and moves. It gets Wish, you know. And I also like Ember Bomb because Ember Bomb is um good speed tier and decent attack stat. Yeah.
Uh, Adam, hit us up. What do
Uh,
you?
I agree. I think Lando T and Red and Wash both pretty versatile and both great momentum mons with U-turn, Volt Switch respectively. I like Rose Red and Nido Queen both a lot, although the two kind of not that fast wall breaking kind of poison types. I'm not sure if both are necessarily needed on the same team. But I do like both the mons. I feel Hooper is the most pursuit trap prone mon in the game. And for that reason, seeing as the pursuit is in this league, I'm not the biggest Hooper fan in the world. What the good mons in this team I feel like are really solid. I feel like its speed isn't necessarily the best. It's like, okay, Infernape's 108, which is good, but it's not that fast, and it's only the only other mon over base 100 is Ambipom, which Ambipom is decent, but you're putting a lot of your speed eggs in the Ambipom basket, if you get what I mean there. Um, I also feel like there's a big gap between the good mons on this team and the lesser ones. I feel like Mr. MIMG, I don't think is going to do very much. I don't think Ambipom's going to do a whole lot. Maybe I'll be wrong. I don't think Berserker's going to do a lot. I don't think Hooper's going to do a lot. So I feel like you're going to know what stuff is likely to come most weeks. So I feel like that's probably the biggest weakness in the team.
Mac, any final thoughts?
I just feel everything on this team just feels very threatening, but I don't know how it's going to do against something that's more threatening, like a Dracovish. I don't know how this team's going to really do against something that it needs to prep for.
Okay, and what was the rating for this one, Spuddy?
This one, 11.
Okay, so not bad, not bad.
Middle of the road. I feel like its offense is scary, but yeah, I'm not sure how it deals with everything else.
Alright.
Yeah.
Alright, so I'm already moved on anyway. We're on to the Adelaide Z Strikers
Already
from our boy, Des Boy.
So, I'd like to take some credit for this team. This is my housemate, so I helped a little bit. No, he picked them once. Just kidding. So yeah, he's probably going to be talking in chat right now, giving me shit for that. But I think the team has got a lot of threatening offensive mons. You've got stuff like Scolipede. You've obviously got Mega Medicham, which is ridiculously scary. And for Alligator, like those Mega Medicham and for Alligator as wall breakers, and Gator can D-dance and whatnot as well. That's really scary. Lardy's very versatile. I feel like Moltres is a really good pickup now that Boots exist. And obviously you've got the bulk with stuff like Stealer, Steelix, Grimmsnarl, Swampert. I feel like the team's pretty solid. The only thing for me is, does the Stealer fit in with the rest of the team? The rest of the team feels quite offensive to me. And now that Stealer can't run anywhere near as effective an offensive set as it used to, with it not being able to get its first initial beast boost up with a Z move, I don't know if Steel is just going to kill the momentum of this team, but we'll see how it plays out.
Garf, thoughts?
I think this team is one of the more well-rounded teams. You know, he's solid. He's got solid hazard setters like Scolipede and Swampert. He's got, like you said, a very good wall breaker in Mega Medicham. And I mean, having Z moves gone is not the best for Celesteela, but I think Celesteela should do well.
Mac?
Yeah, and he's also got Volbeat, which is, I would say it's more of a wild card. You know, it can
Definitely.
it can set up really well with tail glow, Baton pass, gets defog, thunder wave, and he's also got Feraligator and Latias, both of which can set up and sweep. Yeah.
At first glance, I'm not that threatened by the team, but I can definitely acknowledge that if it gets the upper hand on you, it can very much punish and drive the advantage. Stuff like Latias for Alligator, Metachamp punching holes, Scolipede gets set up, it can do work. So yeah, it'll be. I don't know how it does, like, sort of in the neutral to go smash, but once it gets advantage, it's gonna be very hard to come back against this team.
Definitely. I feel like once he gets in a position of like power, like it's gonna be very hard to take that momentum back. Like this is very much one of those teams that sort of fits into that sort of like chip beatdown type of things where like you take a lot of chip early. You've got a few good setup mons, but like I really feel like the point is gonna be bouncing around a lot until you can get your mega medi cham in, Jesus, and just start cleaning up in the late game. And I think
100%.
like that's
I think
just
it's
dangerous.
I think it's all about weakening stuff to the point where Medichamp's going to get a kill when it comes in, and then you open up holes for stuff like your other mons to come in and clean the game up.
What are we rating him?
I like this team. I rated it 3.
Excellent. On to Trisk, the Galarian Panitas.
I think you might read that again. He made me change it.
Uh,
Yeah, look.
Galarian Panitas.
Yeah, but yeah, I think this team is an interesting team to me. I feel like it's another one of those teams that's got a few mons that I'm not sure how viable they are, and that kind of brings the team down a little bit. I'm not sure Center Scorch, even as a D-Max captain, is very viable and likely to do much very often. I don't think Turtonator is going to do much. I don't think Kling Klang is particularly threatening to do a lot either. So, the other mons I actually quite like. I think Crocodile is really good. I like Pex, Crocodile, Serena, Necrozma kind of as that bulk. I think that's really solid. I think Sharpedo is threatening to clean stuff up. Raikou is a fast electric. That's a pretty good fast electric too. But I feel like it's really unless you start to get Moxies up with Crook, I feel like a lot of its offense is relying heavily on Diancie doing most of the work. I mean, Necrozma can do some work too. It's very versatile, but in terms of just actually breaking things, I think Diancie's kind of a lone hand a little bit.
I also like to point out the lack of a solid ground resist. Let's say like any ground type which get, let's say, rock polish, swords dance. I think it can sweep this team, and
Helandris.
Landorus,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
um,
think outside of Serena, you're right. There's not much for ground types at all.
I mean,
Well, Noivern,
rock,
but
Yeah, but Noivern isn't going to eat many other hits, and
True.
a lot of ground types get rock moves too. So, big Garf,
but
keep going.
but he's got super good setup mons. Detonator with Shell Smash, Shift Gear, Cling Clang, and the Crossma with, I don't know, Calm Mind, Swords Dance.
He gets
Uh,
Dragon Dance now too.
oh, bro. Raikou with Calm Mind, and Sharpedo with speed boost. Yeah.
it does get a lot of setup. I think the problem with all the things you just mentioned is it's not a mon where if it clicks the setup move, I feel like I'm about to lose the game right now. Like, it's a problem, sure, but I don't feel like a Turtonator that's just shell smashed is gonna sweep me and I have nothing to stop it. It just doesn't seem very cohesively punching you really hard.
It does like look scary, but it's really not. Yeah.
like in theory, Crocodile and Sharpedo and Raikou and Diancie Mega are very scary mons. But
I think Diancie is a very scary mon.
Diancie is also.
And I like Crocodile, but I think Crocodile is good for its versatility rather than its, wall breaking. It's a good Scarf mon. It's good bulky rocks mon, but all punching mon. What do you think, Matty B?
On the lineup, I think I think it's going to struggle a lot in the late game. Like, I think you can generate a lot of pressure early on. You've got a lot of great options for vault turning and doing bulk damage off the bat, with like, Bandit Krook, Specs Raikou, even using your Sharpedo effectively, even, and whatever Necrozma can do. But like once you hit that mid game, and these mons take a bit of chip, like these guys getting chipped, the team really starts to lack a bit. And I feel like like a mon like Dracovish would clean up here, in a late game scenario. So
It
I mean,
doesn't have that. Yeah, I'm with you.
yeah, like it's got a lot of early game presence, but it teeters out a lot, like just on paper.
You can stuff a bit, but then what's gonna clean them up? Yeah. The answer can do that to a degree, but yeah, I do agree. I had it just down at 13 for those kind of reasons.
I guess then we'll move on to potatoes then, since we've hit the rank. Bang. No team name. Is this right? Is there no team name for potatoes' line?
I don't think he sent me a name. If he did, again, just remind me. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Alright, anyway, Garth, walk me through potatoes lineup, which is again one that I think's very strong.
Okay, Potatoes and I are pretty close, so I kind of like gave him advice and vice versa. So like his team looks very scary from the start. He's got hard hitters like Dragapult, Bishop, and Mega Gardevoir. But I think his utility is pretty good. He's got Hitmontop to spin, Cinderace for Chord Change, Rhydon for Stealth Rocks, and Araquanid for Webs. Hold on. And his team it 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 does well at punishing hazards like Bishop. The moment it gets up a Defiant boost and sets up a Swords Dance, then yeah, I think Sucker Punch clears almost everything. Yeah, his team is very scary for me.
Yeah, look, I penned the court change to fight strategy at the start of the generation. Took that.
You stole it from Blunder, mate.
I stole it from Blunder and made it my own. Some real agency shit right there. So, but I mean, like it is a strategy I really like, and I think it's got a great viability in the tier still. And it gives Cinderace, which I already think is a fantastic mon, even without getting its protein thing, whatever it's called. Libero. But once it gets Libero, like Cinderace is god.
Cinderace is gonna be so much better once it gets Libero, but it's still good.
Yeah, it's got a great move pool.
It won't be able to use Libero at all in this draft, even if it gets it mid-draft.
Any unreleased abilities at this point, if they get released, we can't just start using them.
Yeah, I'm just speaking about the mon itself.
Oh like, yeah, of course.
It's crazy viable already. Pyro Ball, U-turn, Sucker Punch, Court Change, obviously. Like, it's just a fantastic thing to play around with. You've also got like the great use of the webs court change strat with Superior,
and Bishop.
Yeah. Oh, but Superior takes it like a next level because you court change it, you contrary it, +1 speed, hit him with a Leaf Storm. I'm +2. I'm just railing you at this point because it's already got a great 100%. Speed tier, and then you partner that up with or like a +2 already on it before you even if you put a Life Orb or lefties on it. Generally, it's lefties. But yeah, like it's a great set. It's gonna hit very hard. Boys, what are your other thoughts?
Blissey stands out for me as something that I don't think really feels like it fits on the team. It feels really out of place to me. The rest of the team feels quite offensive, and I feel like Blissey's just gonna lose all of its momentum. It's gonna be set up for the. I don't like Blissey on this team very much. And to be honest, I feel like the bulk on this team, while it's got stuff like Golbat, which is a nice pivot, and Hitmontop is decent, but I don't feel like fighting type necessarily the best type for a bulky mon. Outside of that, it's looking at stuff like Rhydon, maybe like AV Araquanid, which again isn't the best in terms of its typing for being bulky. So I feel like it's not that fast a team. Like it's got Dragapult, and Superior, but it doesn't feel quite offensive enough to me to get away with not having that bulk. So that's kind of probably my biggest thing with this team. Also, I feel like its hazard options aren't necessarily the best either. Like, again, obviously, outside of Araquanid getting Sticky Web, which is kind of a different kind of hazard, you're looking at Bishop running rocks, which Bishop doesn't tend to want to run rocks, but it can. And then you've got Rhydon with rocks, which is your tier 5. I don't think Rhydon's a bad mon, but obviously it's very exploitable. And it's a rock ground type, so it's got those 2 4.
Yeah, you're cutting out, brother.
Sorry about that.
Maka, your final thoughts before we jump over onto Kezig.
I think you're sleeping on Garf Omega a bit. It's a really good mon. I don't think it's enough to carry the team. There's definitely things that seem scary, but I don't think there's enough scary things to justify not not having much to defend on the crackback.
Fair enough. And where was this one ranked?
And this
Mr.
is
Spud?
12.
12?
12.
I think that's a bit harsh, but that's fine.
I can tell you like this team a bit more than I do, but that's okay. Different opinions.
That's
different
and
opinions.
that's what I mean. The power, the rating. That's your personal ranking of the team, and I appreciate you going out of your way to prepare that for us.
Of course. And hopefully people prove me wrong when the teams I didn't rate highly do really well with them. You know.
Exactly right. And it doesn't have any effect on who anyone plays in round one anyway. The draw's already done. We already know the
Of
first
course,
3
yeah.
games.
This is
Oh,
just
the
my
rank-
own.
Yeah.
This is just for my own. What I think of the teams for my own. You know, because I wanted to do it. It's nothing more than that. Just a bit of
Exactly.
fun.
This one, arguably the best team name in the entire league. The Galar Mine number 2 Scraggies by Kezig. And this team, again, this is one of those ones where I like a lot of it on paper, but I just feel like its mid game is very awkward.
I mean, obviously, you're looking at cleaning up with Excadrill in sand, right? That's the first thing about this team that jumps out. Is Excadrill with T-Tar Mega. That just jumps out at you right away. I feel like it's got some pretty solid bulk. It's got Tangrowth, which obviously with regen is great to switch around with. Milotic is a great bulky water type. It's got stuff like Flygon, which is pretty good. Can run utility, can be bulky, can use U-turn. I've drafted a couple times in the past. I'm a bit of a fan. And even Comfy can play bulky or can run its Calm Mind set with priority Giga Drain and Draining Kiss. I do like Comfy as well. Actually, I think this team's pretty solid. I think Dunsparce is useless, so it's only got 10 mons. But I would say one issue with this team is it does have Excadrill in sand, and that is fast, and it's got good priority with Comfy. But other than that, Durant's the only one over base 100. It's only 108, 109, so there's nothing over 110. So I think that's definitely something to be noted.
Yeah, I think Tyranitar Excadrill puts so much pressure out and so much momentum, but the rest of the team doesn't seem interested in it. Like it feels like T-Tar Excadrill is a great core that was just stuck on the wrong team.
Yeah.
Stuff like Tangrowth, Poltergeist, Melodic, they're comfy, they're great defensively, but they kill your momentum. Like they're very slow. They're not bouncing into something else. They're there to take hits. Which is just, running out your turns of sand, letting them stabilize more so they can deal with the Excadrill hit next.
Yeah, so it creates like a lot of burden on Excadrill to be the main damage dealer, and I don't really like the dual ghost typing between Poltergeist and Chandelier, but I think this team is quite solid because he's got tanks, but as you said, it kills momentum. Yeah.
And where did this one end up getting ranked, Adam?
This one at 10.
10? Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. All right, now on to the Appletons from Raven's Claw 66. This one's a team full of threats, in my opinion. Yeah, like straight off the bat, Hooper Unbound, Gyarados, Dracozolt to an extent. There's a couple of awkward choices in there, like Lapras. I feel like I agree with Macro on that one. I feel like that's like new toy, sort of looking at it with a bit of googly eyes. Stoutland's a good pick. Tropius is different. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, I feel like this team is wall breaking personified. You've got Dracozolt, you've got Nidoking, you've got Charizard Y, you've got Hooper Unbound, even Gyarados. Like there is so much wall breaking potential on this team. Even like Spec Sylveon is pretty scary as a wall breaker, but I feel like there's not necessarily a lot joining these together, and kind of the wall breaking is almost a little over the top. It's hard to pivot into these scary mons. Like there's not a lot of momentum mons, if any. So I don't think there is any, is there? I don't think any of them get Volt Turn, unless I'm missing something.
Well, Dragonstone gets Volt Switch, I'm pretty sure, but like you, that's
Dragonstone
a
probably gets
wasted
Volt
slot.
Switch. Yeah, that's a wasted slot probably, and it's unlikely to run that. I feel like Webs is really important for this team on Shuckle. Like really important. I agree with you on Lapras, but I think Webs is super important because this team is really slow. This team is really slow. Its fastest mon is Zard Y at 100. Um, like it gets Tropius in Zard Y's Sun, but I mean I don't think Tropius is particularly threatening. Other than that, the team is really slow, so I think that's probably its biggest problem. Also, I don't think Lapras is doing a lot. I don't think Tropius, even with Sun's, doing much, and I don't see Stoutland without Sand really
I don't understand the stat.
doing a lot either. I'm not sure about the Stoutland pick, so I feel like the actual mons that are going to be brought are pretty thin. And while there's a lot of really scary wall breakers on this team, I don't feel like there's a lot of cohesion for me.
Another thing to note out, it's another team with a massive ground weakness.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few of those.
But yeah,
Also, I will say Registeel and Sylveon are bulky, but they don't feel like they fit on the team. Like they should be pivoting mons. They kind of feel like they're thrown on as the bulk, but they don't really have a lot of cohesion. I feel like they should be on a. They're from a different, much more bulky team to me.
I would also like to add that this team it just feels like it's um just like the whole team feels like it's just one mon filled with wall breaking potential, but multiplied by 6. It's like
Yeah.
there's not much synergy around due to lack of Volt Turn, and but like let's say if you give her team any momentum, I think it does really well. Yeah.
I think the only problem for it though is getting momentum. Like I feel like it's gonna be more so, like not to be harsh. I feel like it's a very messy team, but like it needs the opposition to make mistakes. I feel like to get the upper hand more so than just playing good Pokemon. I feel like it's gonna rely a lot on the opposition making a misread or something like that. So there's gonna have to be a lot of like ballsy plays having to be made, like some hard predictions and stuff.
I agree with that, and I do think I think if to the biggest thing for this team, if there were going to be trades made, would be to get some momentum mons in so they could get into the threat, because that would make the team much more threatening straight away.
And what was the ranking for this one?
This one last at
Okay.
16.
Alright, that makes sense to me based on everything else we've seen. Now to our man in the call. We'll hear from you first. Garf, walk me through your thought process in your draft here for the other Morval Munchlaxes.
I feel that Komo in UU tier in the Gen 8 is wrong. Okay?
Yes, I agree. I'm a huge
yeah.
fan. I'm a huge fan of Komo. Go on, sorry.
Since in Gen 7 when Clangorous Soul Blaze, the Omni boost, I think there's somewhat fallen from grace without Commonium Z. So I wanted to try Komo. And Komo has a huge weakness to fairy types and psychic types, so I thought that Mega Aggron would be a good teammate to Komo. This team has a lot of mons with U-turn and Volt Switch being Heliolisk. I think one thing for me is the lack of solid hard hitting wall breakers. Like the mon with the highest attack stat is Mega Aggron, and while I can set up Calm Minds with Clefable, it really lacks an offensive presence. So I just have to trip them down with U-turn box damage. Yeah.
I think there's something to that. I do think a lot of momentum is good. I think Como is still can be function as a wall breaker, particularly with Clangorous Soul and Throat Spray, so it gets that +2 special attack off that. I also think don't underrate Life Orb Magic Guard Clefable. With the coverage it gets, that thing hits harder than people expect it to, having used it myself in draft before. And Mega Aggron, especially if you run it with like Rock Polish or something offensively, that thing does hit pretty hard. I think this team is really well rounded on the bulk side. Things like Mega Aggron with Clefable and Suicune, Gligar, Celebi. I really like the Xatu pick for the hazards. So I really like that aspect. I do feel like the offense does rely on Como a bit, and that's what it comes down to with the wall breakers. And the speed is the other thing that is somewhat of a concern. Heliolisk and Perugly are the only mons over base 100. So relying on something like Perugly as one of your only fast mons does seem like a little bit of a risk to me.
Maka?
The team's good. I think it's another team where you grind them down until they can't stop you setting up with a Crocun or a Clefable. But defensively, there's a lot of good pivots. Gligar and Celebi, great pivots. And you can pivot into something that can take the hits. Like Aggron, defensive Clefable definitely can take hits. Suicune can take hits for days. Incineroar on the defensive side, as long as you're not switching it in too much, can do really good work. Yeah, I really rate the team.
Fair
Thank
enough.
you.
And speaking of rating, where did you put this one, Adam?
6. I put this one 6.
Yeah, excellent.
I rated that team pretty highly. That was pretty good.
All right. Well, now we got A grades, boys. No team name for this one either.
Oh yeah,
Um,
shout out to A grade. He's watching the stream now.
All right, legendary.
Hey man.
shout out to A grade.
Hopefully you don't disagree too strongly with what we're gonna say.
All right. Well, I guess I'll kick us off. Looking at the team. Victini, Sizzle, Muck, Alamola, Pillow Swine, Kingless, Megaceptor, Cobalion, Claydol, Thundurus, Clefairy. There's some decent mons there. I think Thundurus is a great pickup in the as one of your extra mons. Victini hits like a truck. Banded Scissor's always a threat, but it's one of those teams where like I feel like the diversity in it is quite lacking. And you're relying a lot on Megaceptor as your late game win condition in a lot of cases. Just looking at it, or your Banded Scissor, which is just Gen 5 throwback.
I mean, Scarf Victini also fills that role to a degree, and I think Scarf Victini is pretty. Well, I also think Cobalion can do that as well, to an extent. I've used Cobalion before in draft, and it can clean up late. It's not super fast, but it's fast enough. I also really like Piloswine. I think it's a really solid mon in tier 4. It's got a great typing, so I like that. I do think that this team struggles to switch into flying types a bit. Like I think Thundurus is the only flying type switch in. So if you get a scary flying type, which there's a few of them out there, that can be pretty scary. I'm also not a big Claydol fan. It feels like it was just thrown on the team because they needed a little bit more hazard removal and setting. And I don't feel like it does a huge amount. Alom also feels like it'd be a bit of a momentum killer, but I still like the team. I like Megaceptile. I really like Victini. I think it's really versatile. I think Muckalola is a great mon. I'm sure Maka will talk about that because it's one of his favorites. I'm a big Sizzle fan. I think Clefairy is a really good low tier pick. I think Clefairy is actually don't sleep on Clefairy. It's pretty good on both sides, bulk wise, and can do some nice support for the team. So.
Before we
yeah. Muckalola and Alom, they are momentum killers, yes, but sometimes you just need something to switch in, and those two will switch in. Alom with, especially because it has regen, so it can just come in, take the hit, go back out, be fine. Muckalola will come in and more often than not threaten the thing it's coming in on out. 105 attack is nothing to shirk at. The poison touch also comes in clutch a lot more than you'd expect. It hits knockoffs and pursuits just so hard that if it comes in on a psychic mon, you're clicking pursuit and they're really scared. Muckalola also can go for a bit more longevity with a gluttony berry set because it gets recycled.
Oh, it's good now because they'll nerf the berries to 33%, not
have.
50, but it's still viable.
It's still viable, not as good.
Not as good as it used to be, but still viable. But
yeah, those things they come in, they take a hit, and then they can, if they can bounce out to one of the other punchy mons to get it in an advantageous position. Some of these mons are really scary, like Thundy Eye, Victini, Scizor, Sceptile. They're all very scary, and if you can get them in a good position, then you're gonna hit hard and do really well.
Garf, give us your thoughts, brother.
I think having Clefairy as his like solo fairy type, I don't think is that good um because in this generation like fairy types have always been quite like they've they're always quite common, and having a tier 6 fairy forcing it to run like an evil light, I don't think it's his best choice, but but A grade didn't really have any points, so that was his only option. Other than that, I like the core of Elomomola and Sceptile Mega, because Sceptile Mega eats grass type moves and gets a +1 special attack move from any electric type. So yeah.
All right, and
That's true.
where were we rated at?
I had this one at 8. I feel like you guys probably wouldn't put this high. And looking back, I will say, one thing I would change about these, I think, based off the conversations we had, I think I would put potatoes a fair bit higher, probably up around this mark.
Yeah, yep. Well, then, lucky last, Saberlight, which is a team of straight threats. Like I
100%.
rate this team quite highly for like the early part of it. Towards the back end, there's a couple of things I'm not a really big fan of. They're like more like personal things, like more Pico and Nihiligo. I'm not really fans of those mons in general. And it's another one of those teams that has a huge weakness to ground types. Like, come on, guys, ground types,
Oh.
very common.
Well, the thing, yeah, 100%. And the thing that stands out to me straight away on this team, it just screams at me, is T-Tar with Mega Chomp.
Yes.
That's kind of scary.
It
Mega
is
Chomp
scary.
in the stands is scary. No doubt about that. That thing is hitting like a truck in the sand. Other things with this team for me, yeah, I'm not a big Morpeko fan. I'm not sure it's going to do a lot as a DMX captain. I like Sableye on the team because I feel like the team's quite offensive and it provides a bit of a get a jail free card for at least physical mons with priority Will-O-Wisp and things like that. Barrascuda's a good mon. I like Barrascuda. Obviously, it's good in rain, but I think it's solid enough out of it and gives a good speed tier. Um, what else we got? I like Zam as well on the really offensive team because I like Sash Zam as another kind of escape from losing to a mon. I do think that fighting types, particularly the ones that get knockoff, which is most fighting types, look pretty scary to this team. There's not a lot of fighting resists / switch-ins. Like Golisopod, Haunter, which is dying to a knockoff, Zam, which isn't appreciating a knockoff or much anyway. Much, much on the physical side anyway. Looks pretty scary to me. And I think this team is another one that if it had a bulky mon that could pivot around a bit more, it would really benefit the team. Rather than something like P2, which I feel like is a little bit doesn't really feel like it fits on the team. It feels a bit too passive for mine.
Garf?
I think this team is just a bunch of like hard hitting mons slapped together, like just Tyranitar, Metagross, Barraskewda. I'm not sure why Porygon 2 is like was his third choice, but I'm and his team offers good offensive coverage, but against something that hits harder than his team, he has like quite a lot of trouble facing it. Yeah.
Maka?
I think there's a lot of redundancy in the team offensively. Like
Mm.
what Tita and Nihilego, they're both throwing rock moves hard. Metagross and Alakazam, they're both offensive psychic types.
I mean, I would say
They're
Metagross and
obviously
Alakazam are pretty different mons.
they're they're different mons, but like if you're on an aggressive team punching hard, they're kind of doing the same things.
Sure. I will say one thing for that though. I'm not necessarily discounting what you're saying because I think that there is a bit of overlap, but the overlap can have benefit at times because one will weaken the mon that was there to check that certain, type or whatnot,
Yeah, I
and then
agree.
the other will break through it.
Good.
You're looking at like psychics. Well, a traditional example, and this is obviously a much lesser example, is last gen Tapu Lele Mega Zam, right? But obviously this isn't quite that. But it can be useful at times. No, Tapu Lele is not in this. Sorry, Mike, continue.
Especially Barrascuda, Golisopod, like I just don't see them on the same.
I don't really see Golisopod on this team. I'm with you with the Scooter as well.
Like Scooter's fine. it's obviously not as good as a tier 2 can get when it's not in rain.
I think it's tier 3, so it's
Is
not
it tier
too bad.
3? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's tier 3. What do you think, Matty B?
It's like he halfway through going for like a sand based like weather team. He's like Barraskewda Galissapod. It's almost like getting Mons and forgetting the D-Max rules almost, because I feel like Scooter Pod, like that's a great way you could run like double weather in like on like a ladder team with like T-Tar, like a guard shot type thing, whatever. And like you've got like a sand water, back and forth with using the use of D-Max and things like that. Because at the moment, like Scooter, to me, it feels like it's a wasted slot. When you don't have a D-Max mon that can really get that rain up and you can really capitalize on what Scooter does so well, which is just, adamant, zipping through the rain, hitting people, biting like an absolute madman. I feel like the team is also, it's swayed quite heavily towards like the physically offensive side. And
That's true.
It's gonna struggle a bit with like breaking through special walls.
It's going to rely a bit more on like, Zam's solid. And Haunter's good for a tier 5, but it's still a tier 5,
Yeah.
And Nihilego, I guess, feels that burden.
All right. So where does that put us for our last team?
At
Where
this
do we-
one at 9.
9.
But again, after this conversation, I did these quite quickly, but
Yeah.
I think this might have been a little high. I definitely would put potatoes up a little bit more, probably up above those last two, at least. But
Yeah. Will you post that in the Discord, your list?
yeah, I can chuck my list in the Discord. Actually, yeah, I'll chuck in the Discord.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, that pretty much covers everything then. So, season's gonna start, not this week, but next week.
That's
with
correct.
the holidays. So
I'll get those details up, but I think it'll be, what is it, the 5th is the Sunday, I think, of January. So
yeah.
that'll be the deadline. We'll work out the time zones because we want the Americans to have a full weekend to get their games done. So for the Aussies and the guys from Singapore, it'll be probably earlier on Monday.
like
The
a Monday
deadline
morning.
will come through. Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, look at the first round matchups as well. We've got like a bit of a comparison to go off of now when we look at, how we've talked about the teams today versus, how the random seedings come off. And like these first 3 rounds will be used to seed the future ones. Is that right? Like we're doing like sort of like a Swiss thing. So like you'll play
That's
against
correct.
people with a similar record.
Do you want to talk some details about that Macca? He's sorting out scheduling stuff.
We've done the first 3 weeks as just random because obviously it's not very adaptive if you've only got 1 week of results to go off, because people will get a lucky win and be placed in the high tiers when their team isn't in the high tiers. But after 3 weeks, it'll be based off obviously match percentage. Obviously, wins against higher ranked opponents will count more. I haven't 100% decided how I'm going to do it yet.
It's Swiss. You explained to me Swiss format.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
well,
exactly what
sure.
it is. But just for people that don't know what that is, obviously.
Yeah.
Like this idiot here.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, not everyone knows all that stuff, Becca. Come on. But yeah, I think the matchups in week 1 look. There's some interesting matchups. I'm looking forward to my game. It's nice grudge match against my housemates, so it'll be fun. I think.
Kazik and Nito. Kazik has Sandstorm and Nito has Sun. Weather War.
See, that's that. Yeah, you're not wrong. The weather war. That will be quite interesting to watch. Just looking at some of the seeding I've done here too to see if we got any people close together. I think running with potatoes is one to look out for too. I think I underrated potatoes a bit, but I like both. I think both of their teams are pretty interesting, so I think they'll be a pretty good match. But I think they'll all be good games, and yeah, looking forward to starting.
Yeah, so am I. I'm keen for my game. I've got my first 2 games. I feel are very difficult. Getting Porygon and potatoes early on will be interesting. I think my game versus Macca is going to be a marathon in the 3rd round.
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna drag it out for hours.
It's going to depend on how much the fish can break there. I think how long that one goes for.
I can already see the team he's bringing. It'll be a long one. It'll be a long
My
one.
team is Slowbro and
Slowbro, and Slowbro. I think.
Yeah, I'm bringing Crunch Djokovic.
I was about to say Crunch is coming on the fish 100%.
What do we got? Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, that's gonna do us. Getting off to start off season 1. So thank you to everyone joining us in the stream today. Thank you, 20k Blue, Garf, and Spud. Appreciate your time.
Been a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for hosting this. It's been enjoyable.
Thanks.
Cheers. All right. So all those lovely people at home, thank you for watching. Thank you for the resubs as well. Everyone that did hit us up and with the bits that came for old mate. We're gonna go give my housemate a host. Because he's a little legend doing a stream. So make sure you go give my boy Max some love. All right, we'll see you next time.